So I've left this for about half an hour to dry underneath a couple of magazines, and you can see that's dried really nicely on there. And I'm ready to trim it out. So just using my rusty blue scissors, and I'm trying to cut this the same size as that felt. I have trimmed it just shy of it, but you know, just the same size as that, because we want the beads to sit nicely up against the edge of this ultra suede and felt. Trimmed a little bit jiggity jaggedy there. Trying not to take any off, just to smooth that edge. Now, again, we can use our thread burner to get a little hole started in here. So just heating it up very gently, burning through there. A little bit smelly with the smell of that suede catching the light, but you can see it's just super easy to then come in with the scissors and trim that section out. Just maneuvering my scissors in under there, trying not to cut too much away. And back in. And I can come from this side and just gently smooth off any jaggedy bits. I tend not to smooth off jaggedy bits on the ultra suede with my thread burner. And the reason I don't do that is because it catches the light super quick, and you can end up in a pickle and not have suede where you wanted suede to be. So just be very careful if you decide to come back in with your thread burner to trim any jaggedy bits of suede. The other thing that's really super noticeable on colored ultra suede, more so than black ultra suede, is it leaves a little melted burn. See how it's much darker pink on that section? That's where I've cut that with the thread burner. So you don't really want that dark melted edge on the edge of here, because we want this to look really nice. I know it's the back, but I like the back of my work to look nicely finished, just as much as the front. Just smoothing out a couple of those little jaggedy bits I've got there. And I'm noticing, see just here where there's a little bit of white suede from that front foundation that we use. I'm just coming in and touching that up with the Sharpie. Just checking if there's any other white spots. That looks like the only one. Now we're ready to do our edge stitching. Okay, so I've just cleaned off the area that I'm working in, and I have started a new thread. And I'm going to be edging this with black size 11s to get the look like this one here is. And then I thought it's going to be really hard for you to see that on camera. So even though you know what it looks like with the black edging, I'm actually going to use a contrast bead for this one so that you can get the effect and really see what I'm doing. So I'm going to use a gold bead. Let me pick one out. Okay, I've picked out a gold bead. I purchased this from Cranberry just this week, actually. It's a new color to the shop. Been around for a while, but new to Cranberry. And it's the check coating of the matte pale Aztec gold. It's a Miyuki bead for 588. And the color code on the Cranberry website is 11-01710. I just think it'll be, being a matte finish bead, I think you will be able to see what I'm doing a bit easier than if I came in with the black, because that's just going to get lost on video. All right, so I've burnt my little knot in the end of my fire line, and I'm going to hide that on the front of my work between some beads. So I'm coming in here, in between some beads, and I'm coming up on the back side here near the edge of the foundation. It's about 1 millimeter in the edge of the, the edge of the stiff stuff, about 1 millimeter in, and I'm pulling that up. Now, when you look at the front here, the knot has gone in between the beads. I don't actually know where that is, so that's good. So for the first backstitch edging, you always pick up 2 beads. This first bead that you picked up will sit a little bit wonky until we come around to catch it. When we come around here, we'll secure it in place, and it sits out funny until we do that. So don't worry about that. Now, these beads, you can measure them. If one bead is going to be sitting where that thread comes out, then the second bead should come, you know, about here. So you can use the bead to measure where that stitch should be. I like working from the back of my work when I'm edging, and I find it easier to put my needle in to the foundation and through the suede exactly where I want my stitch to be when I'm working from the back side. You see, I'm using my thimble there to pull that up. Now you pull those up nice and tight to the work. They're sort of sitting on a funny angle at the moment. Now this second bead that we picked up, we're going to go through it, not in the same direction we went through it before, but in the opposite direction. And when we pull that up to the work, it's going to sit nice and flat on the edge. This one, however, see how it's sitting at a funny angle? It's misbehaving. That's because we haven't come around again and gone through it a second time yet. We'll do that when we go right round. So when I said you can use the beads to measure, you can place the bead here and work out that's where my next stitch needs to be. Taking a stitch, coming up through foundation, and then don't forget you need to go back through that bead in the opposite direction and pull it up. Taking a stitch, go back through that bead in the opposite direction. You'll see I pull that quite tight, and see the fire line just disappears into that ultra suede. Can't even see it, it's gone. Picking up, going through, back through again, picking up a bead, going through, going back through again. So you can see how they're sitting in a nice little line there, and stitches are almost disappearing on the back there. I love the way that the fire line just disappears into the ultra suede. Doesn't disappear as much into something like a leather, but with an ultra suede it really does make it look like you've got magic thread. Creates a really nice finish, I think. So we are going to carry on. I'm going to speed up the camera in this next section, and we're going to edge all the way around, and when we come to here I will come back and chat to you how we capture that first bead and secure it in place. Okay, so we're coming up to the last little section here, and I just wanted to show you how we use that bead that was placed earlier. I'm just putting in my last stitch. Now I want to head through this bead as if I'm picking it up off the mat. I'm going to pretend that's the bead I've picked up off the mat. Then I'm still going to do my stitch through the foundation and the ultra suede. And I'm still going to do my stitch coming the opposite direction through that bead. And what this does is it just brings that all together. The bead's sitting nicely and it looks great. Now I'm just going to weave my way through a couple of beads like that. I'm going to do a little half hitch knot on the edge here, and I pull that down into a bead. I'm going to come up through that bead, and I'm coming up to the right side of my work. And then I'm going to melt with my thread burner. I'm going to melt a little knot in between the beads there, and that will get hidden on the front side. And that's not going to come undone. Okay, so I'm very happy with how that edge has turned out. Now we are up to edging this bit here. So when we edge the inside of a shape, it's exactly the same way as we edged the outside, only it's trickier to do. Don't start somewhere like a corner, because I find it's really tricky starting in those positions and doing the start and the end like we did before. I find that hard to do that in a corner. So I'm actually going to start up here. Again, I'm working from the back side of my work. I've done a little knot and I'm going to coming through here. I'm going to pull that knot in towards the foundation so it's hidden on the front there between the beads. No one will ever know it's there. Now the easiest way to do this is to pass your needle down through the hole between the work. We're starting with 2 seed beads like we did the first lot of back stitches we did. That first bead's going to sit a bit funky until we get back around to it, but that's okay. And you'll find you'll need to move the beadwork around to be able to do this. Now, so that I don't have to pass the needle back through the hole again, instead of bringing the needle up on this side, pulling it up tight, I'm going to pass back down through as I'm heading through that bead. And I'm going to pull it up tight that way. Okay, so that's my first little stitch. Now I carry on the same way as I did before, but I'm working in this small space. So I'm passing the needle up through the hole when I've gone through the bead the first time, and down through the hole again when I'm going back through it. Pull the thread up if you need to get some tension on that. Okay. So now I just carry on as I did before. So just like before, you need to come, instead of picking up a bead off the mat, I'm going to be using this bead. I'm coming through it. I'm going to head underneath it to the other, oh, sorry, underneath the bead, but without going through it. Now I'm going to come through the backing and the ultra suede and back through the bead. That completes the little brick stitch there. So I'm super happy with the way that looks on the back. And if I flip it over, I'm super happy with the way that looks on the front. It is just wanting to curve just a little bit more than I would like. If I just left that sitting between something overnight, I think that would coax it back into shape. So there we go. I now have 2 love lockets. I don't mind the gold on the edge or the black. I like them both. I think they both look fabulous. So you can pick which you like to do.